set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
AKAPADers, guys. Well, look, I wanted to bring you this episode because it's animation. We do animation here on the weekends. I like to emulate when you would wake up, get yourself some cereal. Cartoons would start early in the morning. They would run into the afternoon. And after that, you would play with your friends. You would just start knocking on doors, seeing who was outside. That was the weekend ritual for my life in suburban New Jersey growing up. Now, I'm in Philadelphia, PA. But guys, Peter A. DeLuca here. Center City, Philadelphia. The Film Buff. New Year. I'm coming to you, though. I guess like really early Sunday morning. I tried to record this because the concept of this episode is, so I had to reverse engineer it. I had to go for like something clickbaity. So we're calling this "We Were Wrong About Masters of the Universe." And you might say to yourself, well, okay, like Masters of the Universe, broad topic, but we're going to like identify that. And guys, subscribe, support, give me a comment. We're very hyped today because I feel like I have the right train of thought. So here's the deal. We're going to pinpoint this like intersection of American culture where there was and we're at a crossroads here, right? Deregulation. Now you as a product creator, you can create a cartoon of a toy line for kids. You could not do that before. This is the Reagan years, and now you can harness the power of advertising and cereal. So cereal boomed in the 80s. All of the iconic characters. Now some of them did exist. Some of them go all the way back to the 60s. But everything that we know about cereal box mascots, and you hear stories about prizes and toys in boxes and mail-aways. It was crazy stuff. You could mail away and get jackets at one time. All right, like that was how unhinged the 80s and the 90s were with this stuff. And when it comes to animation, like the people will call it the boom period and or the golden age. And let's do it, because we would get Masters of the Universe, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Silverhawks, Thundercats, Tiger Sharks, and the list goes on and on and on. Some toy lines didn't make it to air. They would have pilots or a little bit of like 1 or 2 animated movies straight to VHS. But if you liked the toy line in the 80s, most likely it was attached to some level of animation. The crossroads here is sometimes there's like a synergy where the toy line and the cartoon were matched, meaning everything you saw on the shelf you got. Now, the only real exception, right? The exception is G.I. Joe Real American Hero, where the initial 7 to 8 like straight arm action figures, right? They were in the cartoon. And yes, there were supporting characters in and around the cartoon, Marvel comic book series at the time, but in large, G.I. Joe went tracked, and even to like the later years where it got real upside down. The toy line tracked with the animated series. It was like 1-to-1. Transformers, you would get like, it would be goofy. Like the Transformers didn't look like the cartoons. And then let's just talk about Masters of the Universe, because we were told that this toy line, and it's been well documented, that it stems from the success of Conan the Barbarian, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's where like the bodybuilder physique came. But we watch the cartoon and we look at the toy line. It's way closer than Transformers, but it's not quite where G.I. Joe was as a 1-to-1. Beastman, Merman, like so many of these characters don't look like the cartoon. But then you watch the cartoon and there's this whole world that unravels. It's almost euphoric watching some of it. It's euphoric. It's exciting. It's somewhat post-apocalyptic, dystopian, and we have this amalgam of magic and science. A lot of how they classify Thor and speak about Thor and Asgard in the Marvel Cinematic Universe echoes in early Masters of the Universe. And this is where we were wrong, because here's the thing. We're told, right? Masters of the Universe, Conan the Barbarian, clear inspiration. And sometimes in these documentaries, and I got some of these books, they show us pictures. And you're like, okay, yeah, like everyone's drawing bodybuilders and then, doing like camera, like a fax machine on someone's head. I'm not exaggerating. But you'll get these like wild toy concepts, and then eventually like prototypes and production, and then here we go, right? Like the toy manufacturers making hundreds of millions of dollars a year just off of He-Man. But what about the animation? So this whole this whole thread of mine began while I was watching Thundar the Barbarian. And I'm just saying to myself, I'm like, man, like this cartoon just feels like Planet of the Apes. And I start thinking about like early sci-fi fantasy. And sci-fi fantasy is a little bit of a genre that even like something like Warhammer, right? Like more sci-fi, less fantasy-ish. But we're talking about almost like a visual aesthetic that's attached to this definition. So I'm watching Thundar, and I'm just saying, like, this is a million times better than Masters of the Universe, the cartoon. Everything good I just said about Masters, Thundar just destroys it. So I started thinking about Herculoids, and all of that's on YouTube. So now I'm watching Thundar on Tubi. I'm watching Herculoids on YouTube. And I just, like the gears start turning, because there's a lot of Herculoids that's in Masters of the Universe. And then I think about Black Star. That was like 13 episodes. Really cool sword design. Great villain. Those toys are crazy. Good thing I'm not a toy collector. So I get curious about the air date of Black Star. So I look that up. And then I find Goltar in the Golden Lance. Wikipedia tells me that one is, and most of these are Ruby Spears and or Hanna-Barbera. Keep in mind, Ruby Spears may be the greatest Superman animated series ever, by the way. We detailed that back in July. I believe we were doing everything Superman. But Goltar, it's not on Tubi. It's not on YouTube. On YouTube, though, I get like the intro and a couple scenes. And I say to myself, I'm like, man, like this is like a little bit serious. Kind of reminds me a lot of Pirates of Dark Water. And Goltar is, 1980, 85, 86, right? So now I know Goltar is the last of the line. So I start to mentally put these in order, right? Because again, I'm familiar, I'm familiar with some of these. And keep in mind, like Thundar is somewhat embedded in comic book knowledge and lore because of two guys, Jack Kirby, Alex Toth. Jack Kirby gets way too much like credit for some of his contributions for Thundar. It's a clear Alex Toth push show. Jack Kirby was really like his backup mic, maybe like the bass player, I don't know. So, and then like through this too, I find a show called The Freedom Force, which is a spin-off in a way of The Legend of Isis. And during this time, and we're talking late 70s, and I'm going to go through the timestamps of all of these. There was The Legend of Isis. This is her like superhero team. It's Isis, Hercules, Merlin, Sinbad, some stupid samurai robot guy. But I read about this one, and it's also called Space Sentinels. But this like blows my mind. So there's like somewhat of this like line now that I'm building that leads into, and we talk about Masters of the Universe because as animation, it's impactful, it's huge. Even back when those DVDs first came out, one of them, like the first one was like Castle Grayskull with DVDs inside. I mean, the thing sold out. You have to like eventually special order it from Best Buy or Suncoast at the time. They're all worthless now, by the way. So I say to myself, right, like, okay, so there's the toy line, but then we see this like clear influence stream, because right, like animators watch animators, toy line guys watch toy line guys, like right, like I don't expect the guys and the bean counters at the toy company watching Herculoids or knowing what a Thundar is. Like they're really just focused on products and focus groups, and there's a whole big giant process for this, okay? So I give myself like a mental like test, and I'm not like sitting down giving myself the test. I'm just like thinking about this as I'm researching, because I would have said that Thundar came after He-Man. I would have said that Black Star came after He-Man. If I didn't read about it first, I would have said Goltar came after He-Man. I only just somewhat was hazy on Herculoids being like early. Early. But then, right, the Freedom Force. Herculoids, this is how wrong I was. Herculoids is 67, 69. Re-Rain in 81, 82. Freedom Force is 1978. So Freedom Force, right, like kind of hot during the Herculoids reruns. But then we get Thundar. 1980, 1981. Black Star, 1981. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, 1983. Isn't that wild that Black Star predates Masters of the Universe by almost 2 full years? And then we will have Goltar, 1985, 1986. Goltar is like the end of this type of like fantasy sci-fi adventure that leans post-apocalyptic. I would say like outside of Freedom Force is like, and I may be corrected with Goltar. Now, everything I just named, we're doing separate episodes on. We have to do separate episodes on. There's so much. I mean, just there's so much to talk about when it comes to Thundar and Herculoids. Goltar, I think it's $15 on Amazon Prime. I'll buy it. But here we go, right? Because if I listened to the documentaries, if I went through what was in the books, and if I wasn't curious enough to kind of roll around and dig this line here now. So, and I'm not saying this is like a new thought, like a new revelation. What happened was like there was like a postmodern push for Masters of the Universe where it got recontextualized through fans, through people who committed their life in documenting all, like hundreds of characters from the animated series and all of these other things. There's a book series that I have that you see all of the episodes and all of the characters from the TV series. The TV series as a whole, like as an animation effort, right? It's hard to match it. It really is. High fantasy sci-fi, high adventure fantasy, high fantasy adventure sci-fi. Dozens and dozens of episodes. I mean, how many episodes total is He-Man? I don't know if I can see it here. I don't know. But He-Man also blends into She-Ra, the Princess of Power. So we expect like the toy guys to follow the toy guys, the animation guys to follow the animation guys. And we go back to that crossroads where the toy line was not quite caught up to the animated series. Now, eventually, it does catch up. It does align at one point. So the animation guys are inspired by Black Star, Thundar, Freedom Force, Hercules. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is a extension of that, and Goltar, the Golden Lance, is a continuation of what was wrapping up with Masters of the Universe at the time, because, right, like the series would fade away, and then we would get She-Ra, and then we would get Masters of the Universe, the New Adventures. So there's a different line of inspiration and work that people adapted, reskinned, repackaged for Masters of the Universe. And there's 4 other hugely, highly significant series that didn't get traction for whatever reason, but in all, better than Masters of the Universe. Now, I always say it's easy to get the first 10 to 20 episodes rocking and rolling, because maybe that's your order from the network, so you put everything you have in it. I get it, but even to that, 20 episodes deep with Masters versus everything else I just named, is better than Masters. Impact wise, Masters crushes everything. Now, here's the other thing. Wikipedia will tell you that Masters of the Universe He-Man is the first of this, deregulation. It says it early in the Wikipedia article. That's not true, because Black Star 2 years prior also had a toy line. So Black Star predates Masters of the Universe. So Black Star might be the first of all of this. All of this, the deregulation trend and period that we got through Ronald Reagan, that ended up in American culture, in toy shelves, in toy boxes, and now in weird adult males that have to get it, I guess, right? and AKAPAD, so full confession, I am guilty. I watch YouTube content on action figures and vintage stuff. I pull up eBay sometimes as I'm watching it, just curious about pricing, and I get that itch sometimes. I say, I need, maybe I should just start buying some of this stuff and collecting it. I think it's so freaking cool. But, I resist. So, AKAPADers, we were wrong about Masters of the Universe. I would say we were even lied to. Rock and roll. I love you guys.
Okay, that's a wrap.